Welcome to our monthly meeting of the Inland Coalition on Aging. My name is Dr. Ben Jáuregui. I'm the uh, chair of the board. I want to welcome you all to today's presentation today. I'd like to welcome everybody who is new. If you'd like to and everybody who's returning would like to put your name, a greeting, your title in the chat. We welcome that. And notice that I did put a welcome note in there for everybody and encourage you to consider joining us, the Inland Coalition on Aging membership. There is no cost to membership. And by joining, you simply give us your contact information and we update you on upcoming events, meetings, conferences, and other work that we might be doing here in the Inland Empire. Specifically also information regarding the development of the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. So welcome again. We will go ahead and start the meeting. Next slide, please. So first, we're going to do the agenda for today will be, I'm going to go over some key points from the last meeting. Want to remind folks of our great presentation that we had from AARP. And then we're going to jump into a talk on ageism. And after that, we're going to have IE Master Plan for Aging updates with Carmen Estrada. She is our board treasurer, and she'll be sharing some updates on that. And then we'll wrap it up with information on our next meeting. And as always, we do a post-meeting survey because we value your time, your expertise, and we want to hear from you. So please stay till the end and give us your feedback. How did we do in the meeting? What can we do to improve? This is a coalition that is very much about the membership, and we want this to be fruitful. We want this to be productive meetings, and that's why we will be seeking feedback or your input at every meeting. Thank you for completing that survey at the end. So to summarize the key points from our last meeting, we had a wonderful presentation from the AARP, and we talked about the network of age-friendly states and communities. AARP has developed this program to assist cities, counties, municipalities, even states to become age-friendly networks. And so we are in the process of that. That is one of our goals, is to, as we are working towards improving and integrating services and improving services for older adults with disabilities, and caregivers, we want to make sure that we're also advocating for and promoting an age-friendly inland empire. And so part of our work is going to be with the AARP to become a designated age-friendly community. So they shared information that was very helpful to us to know and understand that obviously many people do know that our older adult population is growing and will be 1 in 4 people in the US will be at least 65 years old in 2060. So population is growing. How do we prepare? How do we get ready? How do we ensure that cities, counties, municipalities are age friendly? Well, we're going to work on that. That's a goal of this coalition. Next slide, please. I won't review everything, all the details, but just wanted to remind you of the work from the last meeting. It is a process. It will take a couple of years. It may take a couple of years for us to fully gain that credit or designation. There's processes that we have to do. We have to do a needs assessment. The good news is our needs assessment that we've already done gave us a lot of input from our stakeholders, so we can use that information going forward. So as you can see, it may take up to 5 years for us to gain that designation, but definitely a worthwhile process. Next slide. All right, that brings us to today's presentation. You know, one of the things about aging and aging well, one of the topics that regularly comes up is ageism, and it's because it's so glaring that it's something that we need to talk about. We need to talk about it often. We need to address it. We need to ensure that we're working to end ageism and address everything that it impacts, because ageism impacts everything from our health to our social environment, our employment, services that we receive, employment everywhere, ageism affects. And so this was an important topic that was discussed previously, and we wanted to present and share this information with you today. And hopefully this will help us in better understanding ageism, understanding what we can do to mitigate that and really work towards an equitable inland empire here through the work that we're doing, and being more aware and mindful of how ageism impacts the work that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Give me just a second here. Share sound. Oh, there we go. Can you see my screen, the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, so let's talk about ageism. This is a conversation. We're going to talk, we're going to discuss, we're going to share thoughts and ideas. So please feel free to chime in the chat. You can share your thoughts, comments, perspectives, or we can definitely take your comments during the presentation. The objectives of this presentation are, we're going to define ageism. We're going to discuss some examples of ageism in health, social, employment, and economic context. And then we're going to explore some practical solutions to avoid bias, including reframing aging. Reframing aging is something that really helps us to reframe aging. It really helps us to reframe our messaging and reframe and change the perception of aging, and really just empower older adults to, again, live their best life, live our best lives. But first, a video that is kind of fun, kind of silly, but also very real. All right. So let's start this conversation with, what are some stereotypes of aging that you are all familiar with? Let's start with appearance and physical abilities. Anybody want to chime in? Feel free to put it in the chat or just share out loud. Anyone?
Color of hair.
Color of hair? Gray? Gray hair?
Grain.
Yeah.
Even though people gray in their 20s and 30s, we think of graying hair as a symbol of aging.
Absolutely. What about physical abilities? What are the stereotypes?
Usually have some type of assisting device.
Yes. Health?
Usually some kind of cautiousness about health. Sometimes a diagnosed condition, such as a heart condition, diabetes, high blood pressure, but not necessarily.
Alzheimer's, right?
About hearing devices like hearing aids.
Yep.
Or just memory lapses. Doesn't have to go as
Yes.
far as Alzheimer's. Just the fact that you might forget something or search for a word will have a bias against you.
Absolutely. Driving, same thing. Technology, not able to use technology. And then caring for an older adult. Also some stereotypes there that affect our caregivers. Thank you for sharing. So let's define ageism. This is the definition by the World Health Organization. Ageism is the stereotypes, or how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act towards others or ourselves based on age. Notice that it includes ourselves. A shorter definition from reframingaging.org is, ageism is discrimination against older people due to negative and inaccurate stereotypes. So it's important to understand the definition of ageism, because we don't just want to throw out that word ageism without really defining it. And that's that it's discrimination against older adults due to negative stereotypes and inaccurate stereotypes. Interesting to note that ageism is the ism that everybody ages into. By the way, by a show of hands, how many of you are aging? Raise your hand if you're aging. All right, welcome, welcome. This is a topic for all of us, including any age that is represented here, any culture that's represented here, any gender that's represented here. All of you are welcome to join this group, and we will, and we have. We are all aging So this is the right topic for us, right? So ageism is pervasive. It affects people of all ages from childhood onward and has serious and far-reaching consequences for people's health, well-being, and human rights. Ageism also does apply to younger folks, right? So when we're talking about and stereotyping Gen X or Gen Y or other generations, that could also be considered ageism. Ageism is everywhere, yet it's the most socially normalized ism or prejudice, and it's not widely countered like racism. Imagine if we had a video from The Office that showed another group, another category. We may not find it as funny as we do in these circumstances. So in this presentation. Ageism, nearly 80% of respondents reported experiencing ageism, such as other people assuming they had memory or physical impairments due to their age. The most frequent type of ageism reported by 58% of respondents was being told a joke that pokes fun at older people. I clearly remember when I turned 42 years old, and I've shared this story before. Forgive me if you heard this story. 42 years old, I came into work and my cubicle was decorated, and everybody that walked by said, "Hey, happy birthday, happy 21st birthday." And I said, "No, I'm 42." You know, another person would walk by, "Hey, what are you doing for your birthday? Going to Vegas? You know, now that you're 21?" I said, "No, I'm 42." And that happens so often that it really caught me. I never noticed it before, and it happens all the time, right? We all have heard those jokes about being younger than we really are. But that is a considered a microaggression, if you will, of ageism, right? Being 42 or 52, in my case now, I'll be 53 in August. Being 52 is not something that, you know, folks are readily willing to share many times, and that's because of ageism, right? We just don't talk about it our age. We don't. There's negative connotation with aging or being, you know, in your late 40s, 50s, even late 30s now. You're considered old, and so we don't talk about those things. But that's why I freely share my age, and I'm excited to be 53, and looking forward to 54, and 64, and 74, and 84 if I live to as long as my dad lived. So ageism touches all aspects of life: health, education, social aspects, employment, long-term care, independence, recreation, entertainment, even worship and religion, and just in general, full participation in life. So let's talk about the impact on health. Ageism has been shown to cause cardiovascular stress, lowered levels of self-efficacy, and decreased productivity. These stats are from the World Health Organization. Negative attitudes are also widely present, even within the health and social care settings where older adults are at their most vulnerable. I work in the healthcare industry, and so this one bothers me a little bit, right? To know and learn that it happens in my field, in my industry. Obviously, I know it does, and it just concerns me, and so that's why I have these conversations about ageism. Some of this prejudice arises from observable biological declines and may be distorted by awareness of disorders such as dementia, which may be mistakenly thought to reflect normal aging. Dementia, Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. You've probably heard this before if you've participated in any presentation related to Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Socially ingrained ageism can become self-fulfilling by promoting in older people stereotypes of social isolation, physical and cognitive decline, lack of physical activity, and economic burden. Socially ingrained ageism can become self-fulfilling. This means that everything I've heard, everything I hear, everything I see is going to be ingrained in me, and I'm going to believe these things about aging and growing older, and I'm going to believe that I can't, and I'll be dependent, and I won't be employed, and I won't be able to do this and partake in this and live life to the fullest because of my age and my diminishing health, and just not being accepted in certain circles because of your age. We internalize that, and it becomes self-fulfilling, and we end up not participating in things that we want to participate, not return returning to school later in life, not starting a new hobby later in life, or writing a book or a poem or riding a bike. We don't do those things because of self-fulfilling. These things are self-fulfilling. In social impact of ageism, obviously there's abuse and neglect. There's a perceived lesser value of somebody who's older, and therefore abuse and neglect can happen in those circumstances. Isolation, not participating in their community, in their neighborhood, in work, employment, volunteering, limited opportunities. And then in the media, obviously underrepresented, typecast, and they're precluded, older adults are precluded from the media. To give you an example, I went on Microsoft Bing and I typed in the word aging, and look what came up. Is this surprising to some? I definitely didn't expect to see this when I typed in aging. I'm thinking I'm going to find articles on aging, articles on, websites with positive aging messages and books on aging and things like that. But this is exactly what came up when I typed aging and clicked images on Microsoft Bing. I invite you to try that and see what happens. I also visited, by the way, all these pictures are real pictures that I've taken. I recently went to Party City, and I saw this. The first 100 days of school are now being celebrated by kids dressing up as older adults. And typically sometimes, while I think conversations on being an older adult and being of a certain age is positive, I don't know that it's positive when everything is somewhat negative and there's we're perpetuating the stereotypes of using a cane and things like that in this scenario. Language contributes to ageism, does it? Have you ever heard I'm having a senior moment? Or have you ever heard, I'm 20, I'm 30 something, I'm 30-ish? I think we've all been guilty of that. But language is definitely something that we can definitely change. The words that we're using are powerful, and we need to find ways of changing, reframing. So what are some words, what are some comments, what are some things you've heard that could be considered or is considered ageism? Anybody? Feel free to put it in the chat or share out loud.
This is Carmen. What I've heard from clients, from caregivers, is that when they are caring for someone who was older, sometimes the doctors will just say, oh, they're just getting older. So maybe they don't look into more deeply their symptoms or suggest referrals to evaluations. They just say, oh, they're just getting older, and
Yes.
and so I hear that a lot.
Absolutely. So folks are not referred to health education programs when they're older. They're not referred to other services, thinking that, well, they're not going to benefit. It's just their age. I love the story of I'm not sure I'm getting the story right. There's a story of the woman who goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, my knee hurts. My knee hurts." She's an older adult. "My left knee hurts. It hurts. It hurts." And the doctor says, "Well, of course it hurts. It's 63 years old." And then she says, "But doctor, my other knee's the same age and it doesn't hurt."
Good point.
Victoria,
I'd
I
like
see
to
your hand
share
up.
something.
Absolutely, Randy.
Okay.
The term that used to annoy my mother no end was "at your age." Well,
Oh,
at your
yes.
age,
Yeah.
what can you expect? Or at your age, this is she says, what does my age have to do with any of this?
Thank you. Randy?
I'm thinking of something that I'm thinking definitely has the word ageism connected to it, is a wide range of disabilities that people have had born with or most of their lives. And then they're older at an age, 50s, 60s, 70s. What do those disabilities look like? And are they determined as, oh, he's getting old, when the services that you're there to get and apply for, it's two different things,
Mhm.
and you want to focus on what you want to focus on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy. Victoria, I saw your hand up, and then Angela.
No, I already answered.
Oh, Angela. Thank you, Victoria. Angela.
Hi, Ben. Yeah, so
Hi.
I think we still hear this. And I think that the idea of, I think it's meant to be paid as a compliment, but a lot of times we'll hear someone say, "You look great for your age," instead of, "How about you just look great?"
Yes.
That,
Yes.
and I hear my younger ones in a derogatory, making fun of fashion, refer to boomers as a negative thing by Gen Xers or Gen Z, whatever. But being called a boomer in a derogatory fashion
Mhm.
is another, I think, way that language contributes. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I recall my boys when they were younger, they made a reference to something about old, and then I said, "What? How old is that guy that the band leader, the band that you like?" Oh, okay, so they're that age. They don't think about the folks that they look up to and admire as old or older, but the reality is many of those band leaders are. Thank you. So it is important to talk about language. I love this quote here. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. Which one do you want to be stung by? Lightning bug or lightning? Obviously, the words matter. In talking about language, I know that the word dependent and independence comes up a lot. And I want to just stress this fact here because dependence is not a bad word. I got to tell you, I've been dependent on my wife and kids for many years. I do everything on my own, but there's some things I'm dependent on my wife, dependent on my sister when I go to holiday gatherings. I depend on her to cook the best meals possible. I depend on my son to lift something heavy that I can't because of my back. Sometimes I do depend on them for that. But we depend on family, friends, loved ones. We depend on people at work. We depend on people even who are not present in social media. We depend on their constant communication, right? We're very dependent, and it's a good thing, not a bad thing to be dependent on people. And so we've really got to change the narrative, reframe the word independence and dependence. Independence is another term that is, I don't think, properly used in the context of if somebody is making their independent choices of how they live and have supports and services of a caregiver, they're still independent, right? Independence is not about doing it by yourself. It's about being able to have a choice and preference about where we live, work, and play. And so we need to change the thinking behind the word dependence and independence. Here's some ways of reframing aging on the left. These are some things that we need to do. And on the right, these are some things you can try. For example, do use neutral and inclusive terms like older adults, older Americans, or us and we. Us and we is great, right? It's us, it's we. We're aging. Affirming about changing demographics. We hear the aging tsunami. Tsunami doesn't sound could be a negative term, right? A tsunami is not necessarily a good thing. So why don't we just change it to as Americans live longer and healthier lives? That's a good way of reframing aging. Emphasizing how to improve social context. So let's find creative solutions to ensure we can all thrive as we age. Notice how it's we, all of us, and not necessarily separating also. It's another way of reframing aging. By the way, all these terms and suggestions are from Reframing Aging. The building momentum metaphor. So aging is a dynamic process that leads to new abilities and knowledge we can share with our communities. We're building on something. And then defining ageism, it's important if we're going to reframe aging to make sure that we're defining what exactly that means. So it's clear that it's about discrimination, that it's clear that's negative and inaccurate stereotypes. What does society tell us about aging? What does societies tell us about disabilities? What does societies tell us about wheelchairs? I love this quote by Max Starkloff. He said, "I'm not confined to a wheelchair. I'm confined to what society tells me I'm confined to." And what he's referring to is that those words, those language, and how we frame things, right? To some folks, we look at this gentleman and you might say or think or put it in writing, this person's confined to a wheelchair. And his take is, I'm not confined to this wheelchair. I'm confined to what society says, these negative stereotypes, these the discrimination that exists. And so very interesting way of looking at things and framing them. By the way, Max Starkloff, if you're interested in his story, he was in a car accident at a young age, I believe in his early 20s, and has quadriplegia. Lived in a skilled nursing facility for 12 years. This was back in the early 50s, I think. Lived in a skilled nursing facility for about 12 years, and he finally said, you know, I got to get out. I have to do more with my life, and he certainly did. He left. He started a program to help people to live independently. He started found some funding for apartments and transitional housing, and next thing you know, he's appointed by the president to serve on the National Council on Disability, and really changed the way people live and perceive disability and independence. So great story if you're interested in that. But now let's get into how we fix this. How do we reframe aging, and what's the answer to all of this? Well, here's one great answer, a great book, great read if you enjoy reading. Breaking the Age Code. Dr. Becca Levy she's a professor at Harvard. Wrote this amazing book called Breaking the Code, How Your Beliefs About Aging Determines How Long and Well You Live. By the way, her research has been quoted numerous times in academic journals, scientific journals. It's just a groundbreaking book, and I highly encourage reading it, or at least knowing about it. In her studies, did I say Yale or Harvard? It's Yale University. She found in her studies that negative attitude about aging can have a negative impact on your health. And people with low expectations participate less in preventative activities. She also found that people with positive perceptions have better health. I'll pause there, have better health. That's huge. The research that she conducted and looked at through reviews of academic journals and research papers found that people have better health when they have a positive outcome on aging. Also found that people with positive perceptions engage in preventative health behaviors. 44% are more likely to recover from a severe disability. And the most important thing that she found was that people with positive perceptions about aging live 7.5 years longer. And that's just phenomenal, remarkable, that the research shows that having a positive attitude on aging. So why is positive attitude so important? Because I think it counteracts, it confronts ageism in the most personal way we can, right? I think ageism is a societal issue, but it's also an internal issue. And if I may not be able to change the world, but if I can change my perception of aging, if I can reframe aging, if I can have a positive outlook on aging, if I can think about aging in positive light, I'm reducing ageism, right, internally, but also in my environment also, and I get to live longer and experience better health and better quality of life. Sounds like a win-win to me. In the book, Happiness is a Choice You Make, there's a great quote. I want to read this to you. It says, the elders I spent time with, this gentleman wrote a book, Happiness is a Choice You Make, where he interviewed centurions, hope I'm saying that correctly, This is a quote from the book. The elders I spent time with, like the vast majority of older people, lived with loss and disability, but did not define themselves by it, and got up each morning with wants and needs, no less so because their knees hurt or they couldn't do the crossword puzzles like they used to. Old age wasn't something that hit them one day when they weren't careful. It also wasn't a problem to be fixed. It was a stage of life like any other, one in which they were still making decisions about how they wanted to live, still learning about themselves and the world. If you want to be happy, you have to think like an old person. Beautiful. In this book, he writes about how older people report a greater sense of well-being and fewer negative emotions than younger people. So while there are some things that we have to face as we age, right? For example, when you retire, your income could substantially go down. So that's something to face, right? And as an older adult, and if you do have some health conditions, that's something to face. And when kids move away and they're far, that's something you got to deal with, right? But there are some positive things that have been identified in many papers and books. And in this book, Happiness is a Choice You Make, he identifies that older adults report a greater sense of well-being and fewer negative emotions than younger people. Fewer negative emotions than younger people. Older adults are more content and less anxious or fearful. They're less afraid of death, are more likely to see good side of things, and are more likely to accept the bad. So all this to say, enjoy happiness right now. Enjoy where you're at. See the positive things in your life and embrace them. Embrace the age that you are and where you're going and where you're headed. And if we don't like where we're headed, where we're going, we need to find things that add happiness to our older adult years. You know, we think about when we're going on a cruise. Anybody go on a cruise before? Raise your hand. Or a trip outside of the country to Europe or something like that. Think about how much time you spent planning that event. It was a week-long event, and it probably took you 6 months to plan and talk about and be excited about that event. And we talk about it and we share it with friends and family and coworkers, and we're talking about it and we're planning and we're sharing ideas and what we're going to do. And for 6 months, maybe even a year of planning and excited about that trip that we're going on, and the trip lasts one week. Imagine if we put that effort into aging, if we put effort in planning our older years, even our more recent years, right? Planning if you're in your 30s, planning your mid 30s, or in your late 30s. If you're in your 40s, planning your mid 40s or mid 50s. Imagine the change that would happen within us, and hopefully that would translate to somehow reducing ageism in our daily work with other folks. Happiness is what's happening today. You don't know what the world will bring tomorrow. Take satisfaction in what's available right now and find fulfillment in the present. Interesting, one technique that this author identified was social emotional selectivity. I hadn't put a name to it. I understand what this means, and I knew, and I experienced personally, but I had never put a name to it. Social emotional selectivity is knowing you face a limited time in front of you and focus your energies on things that give you pleasure in the moment. That's what he found, that a lot of these older adults in the book that he writes about use, and that what gives them happiness. They know they have a limited time in front of them, and so they focus their energies on things that give them pleasure in the moment, and that really changes, helps them to be happy. So let me ask you, what are you looking forward to as you age? What are some things that you can start planning for as you age? I have this board at home. It's a magnetic board. I have 3 of them, actually. I have 2 of them where I put magnets of places that I've gone with my kids, and Magic Mountain and Disneyland magnet, and a magnet for the all these places, museums and places that we've gone. And my kids are grown now. I'm way out of the house. And so I have one that I just bought, a new one, a blank one, empty, for me and my wife. And I plan on filling that with trips and fun activities and eating out and going places. And what does your magnet board look like? What are your plans for the future? What are you looking forward to as you age? I'm excited to plan my mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s, especially looking forward to retirement, of course. But I have lots of things to look forward to. Let me ask you, what are you looking forward to as you age? Anybody want to share?
That's another term. People call it a bucket list.
A bucket list, yes.
Yeah.
You have a bucket list. What's on your bucket list, Randy?
I don't know, but I'm not doing this, but I think of things in planning your retirement, like with the 401k and all that stuff, getting ready financially, and so you can really plan your trips and stuff like that.
Yes, thank you. Anna, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I want to go to Paris.
Oh,
Paris is my
nice.
bucket list. Yes, and
Thank
Hawaii.
you. Hawaii. Oh, those flights. I don't know if I can make those flights, long flights. Victoria.
I'm not waiting till I'm quote unquote aging. I spend 3 weeks in Italy every year.
Oh, wow.
That
Beautiful.
was a plan that took time to plan. So if you talk about planning for things you want to do, it took me several years to be able to coordinate things, both work and other obligations, to be able to do that. But I've been doing it for 3 years. I leave June 8th. But
Okay.
moving forward, I'm waiting for my grandchildren to get old enough to age. So we talk about aging at different ages so that I can take them on trips.
Nice. Lots to look forward to, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing. Here's a slide of all the books that I referenced today. This Chair Rocks, A Manifesto Against Ageism. Ashton Applewhite is considered an authority in this topic of ageism. I highly encourage you read that book. She's also quoted in lots of journals. Happiness is a choice you make. John interviewed centenarians, hope I'm pronouncing it right. Becca Levy, Breaking the Age Code, and Age Wise is another good book. That brings me to the end. By the way, this is a real picture I took. On the right there, there's a car with a sticker on the back that says caution, driver old 2. All right, questions, comments?
Ben, this is Cheryl Brown. That was a great presentation. And I'd like to see if you can make that presentation to another group, or if you have it on video so that we can play it for a group that I have, a group of caregivers.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm on to another meeting, so I'm sorry.
No worries. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Travel volunteer. I'm looking at the comments here. Trips with grandchildren. There's so much to do. So much to do. We just have to plan.
So,
All right.
Ben, where do we go with this information?
I would say again, find your magnet board, right? Whatever that may be. To me, the way I'm looking is I'd like to make a memory as much as I can. My wife and I went to the LA book festival this weekend at USC. And at one point I stopped and said, make a memory. And we stop and we look around and we just make sure that we make a memory at that place, that location, because that's all we have to take with us, right? Our memories. So I just make it a point to be intentional with the things that we do, things that are going to be memorable, things that I can bring and invite my boys to. We're planning a fishing trip soon. My son loves to fish, so I'm gonna make a plan, and it doesn't have to be these costly things. It could just be planning gatherings in your home, or getting out of the house, volunteering, just do things that bring you happiness and see that there are things that we can look forward to and plan to, and have a positive outlook on aging. And I think the more you do, the more you see, hey, it's not that bad. I mean, if you had asked me what it would be like for me to be 52 years old when I was 14, I remember my sister turned 30, she turned 25 when I was about 13, 14, and I thought she was so old. And we used to make fun of her. We used to say she was a quarter of a century old. And I thought 25 was old, you know. Now I look at 85 and think, okay, well, that's still kind of young. My dad was 85. You know, now I look at that and think, that's still young. So again, find your magnet board, whatever that may be, right? Find something that's going to remind you to do things in life that's going to bring you joy, and plan for older age. Plan for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. What do you want to do? What do you want your life to be like? And I'm not saying that if we believe it, it will happen. That's not the message here. The message is, you know, because there's still constraints, right? Financial constraints and health constraints and all of that. That's definitely not what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is we have to change our perception of aging, and it starts with us. What can I do? What am I not able to do? And go with that, you know. I like sharing this story because it's kind of tied to this about, you know, when I have degenerative disc, and so my back every once in a while, you know, gives me trouble. And remember, you know, we were going to go on a trip, and I said, I'm going on this trip no matter what. And so I rented a scooter, took it to, what was it? Disneyland, or was it? I rented a scooter a couple of times because I wasn't going to stay home. And to me, that scooter meant independence and meant having fun with my family, enjoying the day out. And to others, it may seem like a scooter is, you know, dependence on a device. It's this, it's that. I don't see a wheelchair as a negative thing. I see it as independence. I see it as being out with family and friends, and going out of the house. And if you change that mindset of a wheelchair, a walker, and whatever limitations you may have physically, if you change them to just, okay, well, I can't do that, but I can do this. I can't walk around Disneyland, but I can sure get around. And I got around, and I enjoyed my day, and it was a fulfilling day and great day, and it made a memory with my family and my boys. Otherwise, I could have just stayed home and felt sorry for myself because I was not able to ambulate. And that's just not something that I can do. Celeste says, Ben, I use the wellness wheel for planning life and retirement are not just about money. Absolutely. They're about, there's so many more aspects to wellness. Absolutely. I agree.
I was gonna say real quick that I agree with you completely about the wheelchair, because that's how I go to Disneyland. And if I didn't have it, it's like my favorite place in the whole world. And it's like, for me, it's everything. You know, I have a scooter that I got from work, and I use it whenever I can, and I just basically use it at Disneyland. I try to walk everywhere else, but when you need it, you know, like you're so right about not letting it be a hindrance, but letting it be a freedom tool. So I really like how you said that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Anna. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Carmen, who's going to give us an update on the Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, Ben, for the wonderful presentation. I do want to touch on a couple of questions that I saw on the chat from Elizabeth and also from Victoria, focusing on how can this group, or what can this group do to utilize this information to help the people that we serve in as a whole, right? So one of the reasons that we wanted to have Ben present was because, I mean, as we're listening to him speak, I think a lot of us kind of caught ourselves into, oh my gosh, you know, I think that, or I have thought that, or I have witnessed that personally, right? And so it does start with changing within ourselves, and then also spreading the word and talking more about it, talking more about ageism, because it's an ism that we don't talk about a lot. So I think it definitely starts with ourselves, spreading the word about it, incorporating it into our work culture as well, right? In the way we work, in the agencies that we work, in the services that we provide. And as an Inland Coalition on Aging, you know, we're working on this master plan, incorporating it within the master plan. So that's the intention, right? And so that it's not just words being put on paper about how we're going to address ageism. It's going to take action, and the action is going to include all of us. So I think I like the fact that people are asking these questions, because these are the questions that are going to get us to create that change, all right, within ourselves, changing the places that we work, the way that we provide services, and then also incorporating it into the master plan that we're creating. And so for those of you who participate in the various work groups, keeping this in mind as we create the different goals and activities that we're planning out, how can we make sure that ageism and ableism is addressed within our Inland Empire Master Plan for Aging? You know, we're working on applying to become an age-friendly community in the Inland Empire. And it's more than just saying that we are, it's incorporating different things into the infrastructure of the Inland Empire. So this is just the beginning, I feel, of these discussions, right? And ageism is important for us to, like I said, to reflect on and to begin talking more about it, and then incorporate it into the plan that we're creating here locally in the Inland Empire. So just a few updates on our work groups. And we're continuing to meet monthly. The Behavioral Health Work Group meets the second Wednesday from 3 to 4. Transportation, also the second Wednesday from 11 to 12. Caregiving and Alzheimer's and other dementias, second Wednesday from 9 to 10. And the housing, the fourth Wednesday from 2:30 to 3:30. And to give an update on how we're doing in each of the work groups, we've created a matrix that lists all the different recommendations that we gathered in our listening sessions and our focus groups. And we're narrowing down to some goals. It's challenging. It's very challenging. You know, we learned about the different services that are available within each of these domains in the community right now. We're, you know, discussing who can be leads and taking some of these actions of the goals that we're incorporating. And so they're making, each of the work groups are working, you know, diligently, and our goal is to hopefully have a finalized or a draft of what the master plan for aging for the Inland Empire will be in September, so that then we can share it at the conference we will be having in September. I don't know if Ben shared, but we will be having a second annual convening discuss that will share information and updates on where we're at with the Inland Empire Master Plan on Aging on September 27th. Make sure you start putting it in your calendar. We will be sharing a save the date soon. And I think I saw a question about participating, right? If you're interested in joining any of these work groups that are still meeting every month, please email us at info@inlandaging.org. And I'll type that into you can also visit our website, inlandaging.org, and connect with us there if you're interested in participating in any of our work groups. Okay. Next slide, please. Another update that I want to provide as well. Can you move on? There you go. Before the awareness slide, there you go. And we're continuing to do outreach for the Inland Coalition on Aging. As Ben mentioned, we're trying to increase our membership. And so we will be having resource tables at the 36th Annual Adult Protective Services MDT Conference on May 22nd, as well as the Riverside County Elder Independent Adult Symposium on June 13th. So, you know, let your colleagues know, you know, they can get information. We will be there, but also you can visit our website to get more information and to become a member of the Inland Coalition on Aging. We will be also doing presentations on May 23rd for the San Bernardino County Older Adults Awareness Subcommittee. and at the 36th Annual Adult Protective Services Multidisciplinary TIM Conference. So the presentations we're going to be doing there are going to include what we have done thus far in putting together the master plan, and also share any updates that we may have at that point. We have new content available on our website at inlandaging.org/media. And this content is to help, again, enhance our membership. We have some social media posts that you're welcome to share on your different social media accounts, as well as a one-page flyer describing what the Inland Coalition is, what it stands for, and how you can join. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we will be having an ICA annual conference on September 27th, 2024. It's a Friday. It will be at IEHP in Rancho Cucamonga. So put it on your calendar. We're going to be sending out a save the date soon. And lastly, we have a LinkedIn for the Inland Coalition on Aging. So please follow us. We will be posting updates on the LinkedIn, and we encourage you to post and repost, because part of creating awareness is sharing the information, just like we're going to be sharing the information we learned today from Ben on the presentation about ageism. And then lastly, our next meeting will be on May 28th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you've registered for our meetings, then you registered for all of them. So you'll be getting updates or reminders of when the next meeting is. If you don't know if you've registered, again, visit our Inland Coalition on Aging website for more information there. And we will be sending out the slides as well as or not sending out, we will be uploading the slides and the recordings of this meeting on our website. On our website is also the slides and recordings of all of our previous meetings if you missed the meeting. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for joining us. Ben, did you want to add anything else?
No, thank you, Carmen, for those updates. Look forward to seeing everybody next month. And don't forget to go to the website, lots of great information, and join so you can continue to receive informative information, especially about our upcoming conference, which I'm excited to announce. Thank you, Carmen, for announcing that.